The Game Awards announced their nominees for GOTY, and Persona 3 Reload isn't one of them. Okay, that's understandable, but surely it's in the best RPG, right? No? How about music and scoring? Wow, P3R isn't nominated, but Multiversus is? It's that season again where Geoff Keighley upsets millions of gamers because their favorite game got snubbed by the Game Awards. While this is a popular meme, it's not actually fully true that Geoff has any say as to what gets nominated. But before we get on TGA's whole process, why did Persona 3 Reload or other great games that released this year weren't nominated in the Game Awards? Is it because P3R is a remake of a PS2 game? Well, then how do we explain Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? It's because TGA actually allows remakes and even remasters to be eligible for nomination. They stated that they want to honor the best creative and technical work, regardless of the format. Hence why even Elden Ring's expansion DLC Shadow of the Erdtree got nominated. But of course, this doesn't seem fair to many and it makes it look out of place with the other nominees. And that's the reason why fans wanted a separate category for remakes and DLCs. And while I do agree with that sentiment, I also understand why Shadow of the Erdtree got nominated, because it's a good game. So does this mean that P3R isn't good enough to be nominated in any category, but Multiversus is? Persona 3 Reload is so good that it managed to make a record for the fastest ATLUS game to sold 1 million copies and only got broken by Metaphor ReFantazio. Its critical acclaim is on par with other games nominated on the Best RPG category. P3R Songs goes down hard, but for some reason, it's not good enough to even get Best Score and Music. Are the people right to accuse TGA as a bias, over-glorified game trailer event? Or is there a deeper reason as to why our favorite games got snubbed by the Game Awards? But before that though, if you're upset that your GOTY wasn't nominated in TGA, then like this video and join Otaka Define for more Persona content. Well, it's a bit out of topic, but it's still somewhat Persona, but more on the gaming industry as a whole. Anyway, please subscribe. So for us to know how Persona 3 Reload got snubbed in the Game Awards or even SMT5 Vengeance, let's look at how the Game Awards does its whole thing. Despite TGA being widely renowned as the gaming equivalent of Oscars, it actually has a very young history. It held its first award show in 2014, where Dragon Age Inquisition won GOTY. Hey, remember when DA was good? And before TGA, there was VGA, Spike TV's video game awards that ran from 2003 until 2012. Spike decided to drop their award show, and Geoff Keighley, the ultimate Kojima fan, swooped like a mighty hawk and decided to make his own award show to honor the hard-working video game industry. Now, even though Geoff created the event, it isn't wholly true that he has the final say as to what gets nominated or who gets to win an award. Because if it did, then Death Stranding would have swept the awards in 2019. So who gets to decide it? According to the Game Awards themselves, they have a team composed of juries. The nominees for the Game Awards are selected by a panel of juries composed of over 100 global media outlets in the gaming industry. This includes the following: from the likes of IGN, GameRanks, Famitsu, Dengeki, and Rolling Stone, my favorite gaming magazine, and Rock Band. If you notice by now, there isn't much of an equal distribution of juries for each country. Now, I'm not saying that this is a prime proof of TGA being biased, but it's definitely skewed in a certain direction. So we cannot say that P3R wasn't nominated because it's a Japanese game, when 4 out of 6 GOTY nominees were created by Japanese game developers. The nominees are diverse, and that's already a positive sign that TGA isn't fully biased. But it does have an agenda. What actually seems questionable on the list of juries is that not all of them are gaming media outlets. Now, that's not to say that this media outlets doesn't have someone who covers game journalism, but it speaks truth that these media outlets doesn't exclusively focus on games, since even if they do have someone or a team that covers gaming, it is an improbability that they were able to use their entire asset to actually review the thousands of games that get released on a yearly basis. Nintendo Switch alone reported that they set a record of 2,000 game releases for its system. Of course, this doesn't mean that gaming-focused media outlets played those 2,000 games, which begs the question, which of them has? My point here is that the jury can't review all of the games that released this year, and they only have a select number of games that get their attention to submit for nomination. Games that perform well on sales, which Persona 3 Reload absolutely did. Games that are lauded by critics and fans alike, and again, P3R and SMT5 Vengeance are no exceptions. And more specifically, games that are easy to market. However, the most important consideration for a jury to nominate a game is if that game was submitted by the company to participate in the awards show, which leads us to our second most probable reason why Persona 3 Reload or Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance weren't nominated in any categories. It's because it would conflict with SEGA ATLUS' new and overly successful IP, Metaphor Refantasio. Just look at the possible nominations that P3R could have received. Best RPG, Metaphor is there. Best Music, Metaphor is there. Best Art Direction, Metaphor is there. Best Narrative, Metaphor is there. Best Performance, Metaphor is not there? What the? How did Stroll's actor or Heist Maze weren't nominated? Well, let's go back a bit to the other reason why they got snubbed. Mass appeal. While this award shows not only TGA in this regard, but a number of events like it, their mission is not exclusively to celebrate the video game's greatest, but more so to market. Video game as an industry is a lucrative business that also needs a lot of expenditures to guarantee its success. Because no matter how good a video game is, if it wasn't marketed right, then no one would really know that this hidden gem exists. And that's why hidden gems are so popular in the gaming circle. So does this mean that P3R doesn't appeal to the masses? Well, by the accounts of the juries, they don't think so. And by them, it's already more than enough that we have an anime game in the GOTY list, which is Metaphor. But come on, at least nominate it in other categories that it deserves. Which leads us back to the agenda that I was talking about. The Game Awards today is more of a grandiose marketing event. By Jobs' words back in 2013, he envisioned a show to celebrate games as an art form. Then why is it now more seen as E3 2.0? World premieres, baby! And gamers get mad at them, which is why they decided to drop that branding, but that didn't stop them to release more game trailers in the so-called Game Awards show, and even told the game devs to hurry it up. Maybe that's their way of saying, oh, we appreciate your amazing efforts in the gaming industry. So shut up and let us show this trailer. If you noticed by now, many of these nominations aren't even presented like how they do it in the Emmys or Grammys. Most of the time, their host would just announce the winner, and even in rapid succession. No acceptances, no walking down the aisle, no ovation, and certainly no speeches. Well, if they do, they only have 30 seconds to give a speech because they have to move on with the next game trailer that companies paid for. And oh boy, it's expensive because it was reported that Jobs' other gaming show, Opening Night Live, will be charging $500,000 for an ad slot. So can you imagine how much game studios need to pay for an ad slot in the Game Awards? Since the previous TGA has more views than the last 5 Oscars combined. And this is where their true agenda lies. What the Game Awards is now is entirely different from what it was envisioned back in 2013. Instead of focusing on praising the genius of game developers and their work of arts, it is now used to promote upcoming games. It's just unfortunate that this award show is lauded as the be-all and all, when in reality, there are a number of games out there that deserves more recognition. Another thing is that award shows, especially for a younger industry compared to music and movies, video games are far more subjective. Add to that the multitude of ways to present the media, from an entirely cinematic piece to an addicting card game. Awarding video games and judging the GOTY is more on personal preference than an actual objectifiable truth. So if your personal GOTY is Balatro, then by all means it is far better than other nominees. If you're happy about Black Myth Wukong, then go and celebrate its historical feat. If JRPGs are your thing, like FF7 Rebirth and Metaphor Refantasio, then we're alike since I love playing those kinds of games. And if you think Multiversus deserves its nomination, then you must be TGA. Anyways, speaking of successes, Metaphor Refantasio really exceeded the expectations of many, even the game developers themselves. If you're curious why, then check this video out. Join Otaka Define for more gaming content. This is Math, and stay awesome, my dudes.